Hello, it's Monday again, and I'm back to continue with the story. Of course, the story I'm telling you right now is Where's the Rest of the Body? You'll remember that started with body parts scattered over the countryside. And we've progressed through the story quite a bit to the point where we realize that these bones came from a nice house on a farm, and we're beginning to think we know how they got there. In the last episode, we had Joel and his friend Georgie interviewing a ghost. Now you can see that I have my ghost Walter with me over here, and I'm just behind me over my other shoulder. You can see Billy Bones, and down below him Sammy Skull. So the whole gang is here. The other three don't have much to say, and according to my wife, sometimes I have too much to say. But I guess I'll be doing the talking today. So last time, as I said, Joel had been talking to, in essence, or the ghost of uh, someone who was called Henny, and he had discovered that her last name was actually different from what they'd been given. Her last name turned out to be Allenby. So this caused him a little bit of a problem because there's a little bit of confusion to begin with between the person that everyone thought had died in that fire so many years ago. They thought that was Nancy Featherston, but now, according to everything that Chief Petrovic and his constables have uncovered, they found out no, it was likely this girl that was brought over in the early 1900s. Okay, Henny Allenby, or Henrietta Harriet Allenby. So now how are they going to find out where these people are and who's dead and who's alive? As far as the sheriff is, or the chief is concerned, Chief Petrovic's positive that it was Henny Allenby that died in the fire, and that it's that Nancy Featherston that they're hunting for. And you'll recall he interviewed the fellows from Chicago who knew Nancy Featherston. So it's been kind of tricky. And Joel's saying, now how am I going to let the sheriff know that this woman's name is not what he thinks it is? I can't tell him I was out at the farm and talked to a ghost. He'll lock me up. He won't believe a word I say. So I'm going to have to think of some way, and he does. So here it is. It says right here, Chief, he says, I know Jenny Kaufman has a reputation for being an authority on everyone's business locally, but she is an older woman. Remember, that's where they originally got the name Henny from. And nobody's memory is perfect. We've been hunting through records for the names of Henrietta Harriet Hackleby and Nancy Featherston without success. We know Nancy Featherstone's name is accurate, but we don't know whether the other name is accurate. We don't know whether the young girl who came over from Great Britain was Hackleby or not. So I think we should check the records, immigration records from the British Salvation Army from 1898 to 1903 to find out just who it was that the Featherstons brought over from England. Brilliant idea, says the chief. Brilliant idea. Yes, we do know for certain that it was the Featherstones that brought her over. So they start checking. They're doing all kinds of checking, and the days go by. And on the next day, after the first call to the immigration people, he calls Franklin into his office and says, there's a call for you. And he takes the call, and the woman tells him, there's a record of an 11-year-old girl named Henrietta Harriet Allenby who was taken into care by Harold Featherston and Marion Featherston of R3 Chaseford in the province of Ontario. Aha, they got it. They now know for certain that the other name is Allenby, and that's good news. So that's helping to straighten things out a little bit. Anyway, meanwhile, they're still trying to find out where is Nancy Featherstone, or is she still Nancy Featherstone, or did she change her name, and is she now calling herself Henrietta or Henny Allenby? And so they're trying to track these things down, and they think she's in the States because that's where Polizzi and his buddy saw her, they claim, in 1912, a year after the fire. So on Friday, one of the other constables, Peter Herman, got a call from the Illinois Bell Telephone Company saying there was a listing for a Harriet Allenby living in Chicago in 1913. All that? But wait a minute, there was no listing in 1914 or 1915 or 1916. So what happened? So the next Monday morning, Chief Petrovic calls another meeting, and he says, you know, we know a little bit about what's going on. And he said, but one thing we have to keep in mind as well, even if we do find this person, is that she went to the States. If it's Nancy Featherstone posing as Henny Allenby, she went to the States in 1911. And, you know, we're many years past that. And it only takes 5 years for you to become a citizen of the United States of America, provided you go through the right hoops. So she could have been a citizen over there since 1916. So that's kind of another little problem we're going to have. Oh, so you mean we'd have to extradite her, said one of the constables. That's the problem, said Chief Petrovic. Now we're into extradition. Who knows what's going on there? So this isn't easy. It never is easy to find someone because Chief Petrovic also assumes that, you know, she may have married somebody, her last name was no longer Allenby or Featherstone or anything that they're aware of. So just how are they going to crack this case? How are they going to get a hold of this person? It's pretty complicated. So a couple of days later, on the Wednesday, one of the young constables walks in, Jay Jarvis, and said, I just got a telephone call from the Rockford, Illinois police. They look back to their incident reports from 1911 and 1912, and they show that the police arrested Johnnie Polizzi, Ernie Stanzio, and Henny Allenby for disturbing the peace and resisting arrest on St. Patrick's Day in March of 1912. Well, another reference to this Henny Allenby, or is it Nancy Featherstone? So it says, the chief says, well, listen, I think definitely we need to go back to Hamilton and we need to talk to the two fellows that came from there, need to talk to Polizzi and Stanzio again. We need to nail this thing down. So they go back to Hamilton and on that Friday, and he calls Johnnie Polizzi down to an interview room. The local police already arranged to bring him in. Calls him down and he says, you know, Johnny's not too worried because last time didn't turn out to be too bad. So he says here, I'll get right to the point, Johnny, says the chief. You'll recall last time I was asking about any connection you had with Nancy Featherstone. That's right, said Johnny. I still don't know why you're so interested in her, but Chief said, that's our business. Just answer questions and we'll be done. Fine, says Johnny. If you remember, I had called you back for a couple of follow-up questions, and you told us she started hanging with a different crowd. Now, I think so, said Polizzi. If that's what's in your notes, that's the way it was. Do you remember St. Patrick's Day in 1912 in Rockford, Illinois? Polizzi looks a little confused, and his face kind of reddens, and he says, you know, like sort of. And Petrovic says, I have a police report in front of me, copy of one from the police in Illinois. And they remember it quite well. And he said, so you better tell me the answers to any of the questions that I have. I know you were arrested. So was your brother Ernie, or your pal Ernie, and so was Henny. Well, there was kind of a misunderstanding at the St. Patrick's Day party in Rockford that day, said Johnny. Who was with you that day? Chief Petrovic asked. Keep it simple. Well, let me think. It was a long time ago. I remember now. Ernie and I decided to go to Rockford to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with a woman we knew there. Well, so far you're doing fairly well, Johnny. Now just tell me the name of the woman who attended the party with you. Johnny, now not looking at Chief Petrovic, mumbled Nancy Featherston. You forgot to mention that the last time we talked, said Chief Petrovic. But I will forgive you if you give me answers to my next few questions. They're important questions, especially if you like it here in Canada. I think the chief's threatening him. Because, of course, Johnny and Ernie can't go back to Chicago. There'll be dead men there. He says, what name did Nancy give the police in Rockford? Now Johnny looked worried. He thought and said, she called herself Henny. What last name did she use? And speak clearly so I can hear you, said Petrovic. She said her name was Henny Allenby. Why do you think she used that name, Johnny? Well, at the time it made no sense to me. I thought she was just being difficult with the police. And I didn't say anything. Later, though, I found out she had to use that name because that's the name she used in the local telephone book. Next question's even more difficult, said Petrovic. But you've been cooperative so far, and I want you to answer this truthfully. Well, what did Nancy Featherston say happened to her parents? Johnny's kind of squirming now. He's looking uncomfortable. Remember, said Petrovic, you don't want to be charged with obstructing justice. Just give me the answer. We didn't talk about it much, said Johnny. But one night in early in 1912, when we were all high on alcohol and cocaine, she told Ernie and me that she killed her parents. She said it happened when she was high from coke, was really stressed, and she saw them as evil beings. So she killed them to make the world a better place. Then Johnny says, did she really do that, or was that just a story? I don't think I know anybody bad enough that they'd kill their mom. And I know some bad people, Johnny said. It doesn't make sense. It's against nature. Petrovic didn't respond. Johnny kept talking. Ernie and I talked about what she said a little bit. We didn't take it too seriously. When she was high, she would say anything and do anything. And if you got her upset, she was a very dangerous woman. We never thought much more about it. Thank you, Johnny, said Chief Petrovic. I'm not going to have you detained at this time. Please do not discuss anything that we talked about in this interview with anyone else, including Ernie's brother, Bino. There's a possibility you could be called as a witness in the future. But I don't want to be a witness, said Johnny. Oh, I know you'll be a witness, said the chief. It's always much better to be a willing witness than to have to be subpoenaed. Thank you, Johnny. We're done. And that was extremely valuable information. And we've moved another step closer. Now we have someone who's told us that Nancy Featherston told them she had murdered her own parents. She murdered them, and cut them up, and stored them in the ice house. They probably would have stayed there even longer if wild animals found them. The only other thing I wanted to mention today is we're talking about my second book, and my 9th book just came out. And here's a copy of the cover. You can see it. Who Stole My Car? Right? Book number 9. And so, thank you very much. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you later.